Hello, this is Joseph Zoll. Today we have some examples of some suggested constitutional amendments that never made it through to the Constitution. Briefly, a suggested amendment is introduced into Congress in either house. It must pass by a 2/3 margin in each house to be proposed to the states. That's 67 of 100 senators, and that's 290 of 435 representatives. 2/3 is very hard to get. It means twice as many voted for the proposed amendment as voted against it. Then going to the states, 3/4 of the state legislatures must approve it. That means 3 times as many state legislatures approved it as did not. So that is an even higher barrier. So it's difficult for a suggested amendment to go through the proposal stage and the ratification stage and become part of the Constitution. Some people simply suggest amendments because they're trying to make a point, or they're trying to please a certain part of their constituency back home without really intending to push it and without really expecting it to become part of the Constitution. Our first one from 1894 acknowledged that the Constitution would recognize God and Jesus Christ as the supreme authorities in human affairs. Now, a practical question. If we're about to make a decision in Congress, at the White House, or in the Supreme Court, how physically do we check with God and Jesus Christ to make sure we are making the right decision? Now, I'm not trying to be sacrilegious here. I'm just saying there is something of a gap between our natural world and the supernatural world, and I don't see how we get the answers on legislation, executive orders, or court decisions. The advocates of this were aligned with movements at the time for temperance, prohibition of alcohol, blue laws, many businesses required to be closed on Sundays, and other causes at the time. Some advocates as far back as the 1860s claimed that the Civil War was punishment by God for a lack of religiosity in the United States, that Christianity was the correct religion and should be accepted as such and promoted as such by the government. This fired up again in the Panic of 1893, a depression that lasted for 4 years, not one, with the advocates giving the same explanation for the event: lack of religiosity and a lack of prominence for Christianity by the government and the people. So this did not get through Congress, but that's the story behind it. Then in 1876, we have the forbidding of religious leaders from occupying a governmental office or receiving federal funding. Now, this is a definite separation of religion and government. But who is a religious leader? A bishop? A minister? A priest? The leader of the choir? The principal of the Sunday school program? Leader is kind of a vague concept. It didn't list what the offices were that would be affected. I just named a few. But how far down the ladder do we go? On receiving federal funding. If a pastor, or perhaps the choir master, wanted to go back to school to get a graduate degree, in today's world would not be allowed to receive funding for that study through a student loan or through any kind of a grant. That seems to be where they were coming from. But the main focus was to forbid religious leaders from occupying a governmental office. Now, if this became part of the Constitution, it would affect not just federal office, but also state, county, city, even a local school board. Now, in the United States today, we do have many local religious leaders who may run for the local school board out of civic mindedness because they have ideas on how the school system could be run better. This would be forbidden. But what's the historical background? Utah was settled by Brigham Young and members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Other religions are also in Utah, but it is still the dominant religion in Utah. In 1850, it became a territory, but didn't become a state until 1896. Brigham Young was president of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints from 1847 until 1877, and governor of Utah Territory from 1851 to 1858. And this was seen by many as a violation of the principle of religion and government, and this held up the statehood. The suggested amendment was to address that, and Utah finally did become a state in 1896. In 1878, a three-person executive council, specifically with one member from each region. So we'd all vote for a member of the National Executive Council based on what region we live in. Why this? Well, it really comes out of the election of 1876, was one big mess. And I'm not sure this would by itself have solved the situation, prevented it from happening again, which we have worked on since then by statute. But the story of the election of 1876 is a foundation for the argument for this particular suggested amendment. We do have a video on that here on this channel. If you're interested in this, please stop here, watch that video first, and then come on back. The Lusitania was sunk May 7, 1915, but the U.S. did not declare war until April 6, 1917. In the meantime, there's a huge debate. Some said this is Europe's problem, let Europe handle it. Others said this has to stop. Thousands of people are dying in the trenches. We can go in and make a difference. International commerce is affected, and remember the Lusitania. We have to go in to help the Allies win and get this over with. So in 1916, this was a suggested amendment. I don't think the backers expected it to successfully become a part of the Constitution, but they were out to make a point. It speaks for itself. Please post your comments, and here are some additional videos available now on this channel. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notifications bell so you don't miss any of the new videos we'll have coming up. Thank you for joining me today.